Around this time of year, broadcasters love to show Filipino or Latino penitents doing their Holy Week thing. When the voyeurs can't find guys nailing themselves to crosses or flagellating themselves, they focus on the Holy Week floats, taken in procession through the streets. One of the stars is the Macarena, not the song and dance, but the statue of Our Lady of Sorrows and of Hope. In such images, Mary may be dolled up in precious metals, robes and jewels, but she weeps copiously and has 7 knives in her heart. What's that all about? When we heard the dying Jesus calling Mary woman today, it might have sounded a rather harsh way to address your own mother. But he was in fact calling her the second Eve. The first Eve was called the woman because she came from the man and was mother of all the living. Now Mary is called the woman because the Son of Man came from her, and she is to be mother of all the ever-living. But because the new Eve was conceived without the sin of the first Eve and all the damage that caused, we might think she had it easy. If so, she's not really much of a model for us. The 7 daggers in her heart say otherwise. 3 were associated with the troubles of Jesus' childhood and therefore of her early parenting. Simeon, warning her at the presentation that her son's doom would break her own heart. Then her flight into Egypt with the boy as refugees. Then his being lost and found in the temple as a youth, which she described as agony for Joseph and herself. We chanted the other 4 dolas in St. John's Passion today, following Jesus as he bore his cross along the Via Dolorosa, standing faithfully by as he hung dying, receiving his lifeless body into her arms, and finally witnessing his entombment. Life was no bed of roses for the Pietà. There's a lesson here for us. Though Christian life promises Easter, it comes via Good Friday. The world tells us that with enough money, law, education and technology, there's a quick fix for everything. But some problems are more intractable. And even for the Virgin, there were times of darkness. Sure, she'd had a glimpse of the resurrection, of its glory, when she was enveloped in divine light at the Annunciation. But then came those 7 dolas. She stood amongst suffering and confused humanity, abandoning herself entirely to God's providence. Only when the Spirit descended a second time upon her at Pentecost would all be clear. Till then, she cherished in her heart what little she could know and love. Her unconditional fiat to God was sorely tested. Yet it was precisely then that her yes meant so much. Devotion to the Sorrowing Mother is scriptural in its origins, but evolved in various cultures into prayers, processions, art and music. From 10 p.m. tonight, 1,000 or so young people, and some young at heart, will spend the night walking with a cross in procession from St Patrick's Blacktown, stopping at 7 churches along the way, like Mary's 7 dollars, for the Stations of the Cross and to pray the Rosary with the Sorrowing Mother. Finishing up here at the Cathedral around 8 o'clock tomorrow morning with a blessing and breakfast. There will be such processions in many parts of the world tonight. Around Italy and Latin America, men will dress as Roman soldiers, and black-clad holy women will join candlelight funeral processions with a statue of the bier of Christ and another of the Lonely Mother, pallid in the moonlight. These processions, like our creeping to the cross today, tell us that Christians must be especially conscious of those who are hurting, seeing in them the suffering Christ and comforting them with such vinegar on hyssop as we can. We must be especially aware of those who can make no sense of the darkness they are experiencing and share with them our Christian hope. We must be especially mindful of those who are sick and dying, and stand by them in compassion and prayer as the sorrowful mother stood by the cross. We must be especially attentive to those who are grieving the loss of loved ones, and accompany them as the holy women and John held Mary up, even as she cradled her lost boy. In the Mexican city of Puebla, during tonight's procession of the Soledades, the loneliness of the sorrowing mother, they will chant a haunting hymn, the Mater Desolata. Let me read it to you. Mother, whose heart is deep as the deep sea, what hast thou seen today? What hast thou done? What is this place of slaughter and of skulls? What day has this been since first ray broke, and all the temple precincts woke and stirred with bleatings of the lambs? What hours were those till noon, when from the temple steps there rang the blast of trumpets, telling the Lamb was slain, and over thee was reared and fixed the cross? What were those hours that passed, or were they years, here, and thou standing by? Here didst thou stand, until a great cry rent the earth apart, and in the temple shook down right and left the columns, and the veil was rent in the midst. In all the days was ever a day like this?